The sound of the doorbell at 6:47 p.m. surprised Lily. She hadn't expected anyone, and the sudden knock made her heart skip. Her husband, David, was still at work, and the house felt unusually quiet. She opened the door to see a familiar face, Mark, David's old college friend. He smiled warmly, holding a bottle of wine. "Hope I'm not intruding," he said, stepping inside without waiting for an answer. Lily's first instinct was hospitality. She led him to the living room, offered him a seat, and poured him a glass. There was something different about Mark today. He seemed lighter, calmer than she remembered from the stories David had told her. As they talked, Lily noticed small things: the way Mark laughed freely, how he tilted his head when thinking, how he remembered details about David's childhood. It was easy to see why David valued him as a friend. Hours passed in comfortable conversation. Lily found herself sharing stories about her life that she rarely told anyone. There was a gentle understanding in Mark's eyes that made her feel seen. She laughed more than she had in weeks. At one point, Mark glanced at the clock. "I should probably get going soon. Don't want to keep David waiting." Lily realized she had almost forgotten about him being alone at home. The thought made her heart tighten. She invited him to stay a little longer, secretly enjoying his company. When he finally left, Lily walked him to the door. She waved, smiling, but a strange heaviness settled in her chest as she closed the door. The quiet house felt emptier than before. She sank onto the couch, thinking about the evening. Mark's visit had been simple, innocent, and yet it had stirred something she couldn't quite put into words. The way he made her feel calm, appreciated, and curious. It was unsettling in its quiet intensity. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. Lily tried to shake it off. She told herself it was normal to enjoy the company of someone new. Still, her thoughts kept circling back to Mark's smile, his laughter, and the easy way he had slipped into her life, if only for a few hours. She realized she had never really thought about her own emotions this clearly before. Was it loneliness, a need for attention, or something deeper, a silent longing she hadn't acknowledged? That night, Lily couldn't sleep. The house was quiet, but her mind raced. Mark's presence lingered in her thoughts like a shadow she couldn't quite catch. She wondered if David would ever notice the small changes in her mood. She didn't even want him to. It felt wrong, yet the feeling was undeniable. The next morning, the sun filtered through the curtains, casting a golden light over the living room. Lily sat there, replaying every moment from the night before. Every laugh, every glance, every word seemed more significant now. And then, as if the universe had a way of answering unspoken questions, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Mark, simple and friendly. "Thanks for last night. It was really nice catching up. Hope to do it again soon." Lily stared at the message, feeling a strange warmth and a sudden ache at the same time. There was nothing improper about it, nothing wrong, and yet she couldn't ignore the flutter in her chest. She looked around the empty living room, realizing how quiet and lonely it had seemed before. She understood, perhaps for the first time, that sometimes connection isn't about romance or danger. It's about recognition, being seen, being understood. But why did it feel so heavy now, when it should have been simple? Her eyes drifted to the clock. It was almost 9 a.m. She had to get ready for work, but her mind was elsewhere. That simple visit had left her unsettled, and for the first time, Lily wondered if a single evening could shift the way she saw her own life. A quiet knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. She froze, unsure who it could be. Her heart skipped again. Lily hesitated for a moment before opening the door. To her relief, it wasn't Mark. It was just the mail carrier with a small package. She took it inside, still feeling the faint echo of last night's unease in her chest. As she set the package on the kitchen counter, her thoughts drifted back to Mark's message. She reread it, trying to find some hidden meaning. There was nothing unusual, nothing inappropriate, yet a subtle tension lingered. Something about the way he spoke to her felt different from anyone else. She shook her head, trying to clear her mind. David would be home late again tonight, probably buried in meetings, and she reminded herself to focus on her day. But as she drove to work, the image of Mark's laugh kept popping into her mind. She didn't understand why. At the office, her friends noticed she was unusually quiet. "Are you okay?" one of them asked. Lily smiled, dismissing it with a shrug. "Just a long week," she replied. But even as she said it, she felt the weight of her own words. During lunch, her phone buzzed again. A message from Mark. "Do you want to grab coffee sometime this week? Just to catch up." Lily's stomach tightened. She typed and erased a reply several times before finally writing, "Sure, maybe Thursday?" She felt guilty immediately. It was harmless, a coffee. But the thought of spending time with Mark without David around made her heart pound in a way she didn't expect. That night, when David finally came home, he was cheerful but exhausted. "Busy day?" Lily asked, trying to keep her tone casual. "Yeah, nonstop," he replied. He dropped his bag and kissed her forehead. "How was your day?" "Fine," she said, though her mind was elsewhere. She realized that even small interactions with Mark now carried more weight than she wanted to admit. The next few days passed in a blur. Lily found herself noticing things she hadn't before. The way David hummed while cooking, the softness of their couch, the quiet moments that used to feel comforting. But each memory was overshadowed by thoughts of Mark's easy smile and attentive eyes. Thursday finally arrived. Lily dressed in a simple blouse and jeans, trying not to overthink it. She met Mark at a small cafe near her office. When he waved at her from the corner table, her chest tightened again. "Hi, Lily," he said warmly. "Thanks for meeting me." "Of course," she replied, forcing a smile that felt genuine, but also strangely nervous. They talked about work, mutual friends, and memories of college days. Mark's stories were easy to listen to, his voice calm and reassuring. Lily laughed freely, feeling a warmth she hadn't realized she was missing. When their coffee cups were empty, Mark leaned back slightly. "I've missed these conversations," he said softly. "It's nice to just talk without any distractions." Lily nodded. She didn't know why, but hearing him say that made her chest ache. There was an honesty in his words that resonated with something deep inside her. On her way home, she kept replaying their conversation. Nothing had happened, nothing that could be considered improper, and yet the connection felt heavy, like a shadow she couldn't shake. When she walked into the house, David was in the living room, scrolling on his phone. He smiled at her, oblivious to the storm brewing quietly in her mind. That night, Lily lay awake, thinking about Mark and the strange pull she felt toward him. She tried to tell herself it was harmless, a simple friendship, but in the stillness of the night, it felt like more, a silent realization creeping into her heart. Somewhere between guilt and longing, Lily understood something unsettling. Sometimes life's simplest moments could awaken feelings she hadn't expected, and no amount of rational thought could fully contain them. She closed her eyes, wondering if she was ready to face the truth of her own heart. The next morning, a soft knock echoed through the quiet house. Lily froze, sensing that this knock might not be just another visitor. Lily's heart skipped as she walked to the door. This time, it really was Mark. He was holding a small box of pastries, his smile as warm as ever. "I thought you might like these," he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Thank you," Lily said softly, taking the box. She set it on the kitchen counter, feeling the air between them charged in a way that was new and unexpected. She reminded herself, it was innocent, just a friend stopping by. They moved to the living room, sitting across from each other. Lily noticed the calm confidence in Mark's posture. He didn't try to impress, he just existed in a way that drew people in. And she, for reasons she couldn't name, was drawn too. As they talked about mundane things, work deadlines, neighborhood news, favorite shows, Lily felt a quiet sense of intimacy grow. It wasn't physical, it wasn't romantic in the traditional sense. It was something subtler, something deeper, a feeling of being fully seen. Mark laughed at a small anecdote she shared, and Lily realized how rare it was to feel truly heard. Her chest ached, not with longing, but with the sudden awareness of how lonely she had felt in subtle ways she hadn't acknowledged before. Hours slipped by unnoticed. Lily's mind, however, was restless. Every time she glanced at the clock, she thought about David, about their life together. And yet, Mark's presence felt like a mirror, showing her parts of herself she had ignored. When he finally stood to leave, Lily felt a pang of disappointment. She didn't want to admit it aloud, so she simply smiled and walked him to the door. "Thanks for stopping by," she said. "Any time," Mark replied, his voice soft. "I enjoy our talks." After he left, Lily sank onto the couch, staring at the quiet house. The evening had been harmless, completely harmless, and yet she couldn't shake the tension that had built quietly, invisibly inside her. David came home later than usual, tired but cheerful. He didn't notice anything different about her, and Lily was grateful. She wasn't sure how to process her own feelings without making them real in the wrong way. Over the next few days, Lily replayed her interactions with Mark over and over in her mind. Every laugh, every glance, every shared story seemed to echo louder than it should have. She felt guilty for enjoying the attention, guilty for the small thrill she experienced every time he texted. Then one evening, she found herself walking alone through the neighborhood park. The sunset painted the sky in soft oranges and purples. Her thoughts drifted to Mark, and she realized something she hadn't allowed herself to acknowledge. His presence made her feel alive in a way she hadn't felt in months. It wasn't about Mark being better than David. It wasn't about replacing anyone. It was about the quiet recognition that human connection could be profound and gentle, even without romantic implications. She sat on a bench, letting the wind brush her face, thinking about what it all meant. The world seemed larger than before, filled with possibilities she hadn't considered. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Mark, simple and unassuming. "Do you want to meet tomorrow morning for a quick coffee before work?" Her heart leapt. She typed back a quick yes, then sat back, staring at the sky. Something was shifting inside her, slowly, quietly. That night, Lily lay in bed beside David, feeling the warmth of his presence, but also a new awareness of herself. She understood now that emotions weren't always tidy, they weren't always convenient, and sometimes they arrived without warning, forcing a silent reckoning. As she drifted off to sleep, she felt both comforted and unsettled. The world was unchanged, and yet everything inside her had shifted. The next morning, the sound of a knock at the door startled her again. Her heart raced, sensing that this day might bring another revelation she wasn't ready for. Lily opened the door to see Mark standing there with his usual warm smile and a small cup of coffee in hand. "Morning," he said softly. "Thought you might need a little pick-me-up before work." She accepted it, feeling a flutter she didn't quite understand. It was just coffee, just a friendly gesture, and yet it carried a weight that made her chest tighten. She stepped aside to let him in. They settled in the kitchen, sipping quietly. The morning sunlight spilled across the counters, illuminating the small, simple space. Lily felt the calm of the moment, but also a strange tension, a pull she couldn't name. "You seem thoughtful today," Mark said after a moment. "Everything okay?" Lily paused. Could she really tell him? No. She forced a small smile. "Just thinking about work." Mark nodded, but she could see the understanding in his eyes. He didn't push. He didn't need to. That quiet attentiveness was what unsettled her most. It made her realize how seldom anyone looked at her like that, really looked. As they talked, she found herself opening up in ways she hadn't with David recently. Not secrets, not confessions, but small details, fleeting thoughts, tiny insecurities she normally kept hidden. And Mark listened, really listened. Time passed too quickly. Before she knew it, she glanced at the clock. "I have to go," she said, suddenly aware of the few minutes left before work. Mark nodded, a shadow of a smile on his lips. "I'll see you later then. Maybe this weekend?" Lily hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, maybe this weekend." He left, and she felt the silence of the house press against her. She tried to focus on David, on the life they had built together, but Mark's presence lingered like a soft echo, a gentle reminder that there were parts of her heart she had neglected. That afternoon, David came home earlier than expected. He seemed cheerful, unaware of the quiet storm in Lily's mind. She hugged him, feeling both warmth and a strange distance. Over dinner, she noticed how easily he laughed, how natural his presence felt, and yet the contrast between his energy and the subtle connection she had with Mark made her feel conflicted. She wasn't unhappy with David, not at all, but she was learning that emotions could be complicated, layered, and impossible to control. Later that night, she found herself sitting alone in the living room, staring at the empty chair where Mark had sat that morning. The realization hit her fully. She valued the depth of attention, the quiet understanding she shared with him, even if it didn't fit neatly into her life. She thought about David, about love and commitment, and about herself. She realized that she hadn't truly considered her own emotional needs in a long time. Mark wasn't a threat. He was a mirror, reflecting something she had ignored for far too long. Her thoughts wandered to the weekend, to the coffee date they had tentatively planned. Was it a simple meeting, or would it uncover more truths she wasn't ready to face? That night, sleep came reluctantly. Lily felt the weight of possibility pressing against her chest. She loved David, but she was also awakening to the reality that human connections, unexpected, quiet, and innocent as they may seem, could stir feelings she hadn't allowed herself to explore. By morning, a message appeared on her phone from Mark. "Looking forward to tomorrow." Lily stared at it, her heart caught between comfort and unease. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew it would change something inside her. And as the sunlight filtered through the curtains, she realized that sometimes the smallest, simplest visits could leave the deepest marks. The next knock at the door felt different. He wasn't just a visitor this time. Something unspoken hung in the air, something neither of them had named yet. Lily opened the door to see Mark standing there with a tentative smile, holding a small notebook. "Morning," he said softly. "I thought maybe we could take a walk, just around the park." She nodded almost instinctively, a mix of curiosity and apprehension swirling inside her. The air outside was crisp, the sky painted in soft shades of gold. As they walked, the neighborhood was quiet, the occasional chirp of birds breaking the silence. For a while, neither spoke. The stillness was comfortable, almost meditative. Lily realized how rare it was to find moments like this. simple, undemanding, yet deeply stirring. Finally, Mark spoke. Lily, I hope this isn't awkward, but I wanted to say something. He paused, searching her eyes for a reaction. I really enjoy spending time with you. Not in any complicated way, just your presence makes things feel lighter. Lily's chest tightened. His words were gentle, honest, and they stirred something she had been trying to define for weeks. It wasn't about romance exactly. It was about recognition, about being truly seen. I feel the same, she admitted softly. It's strange, isn't it? How a few conversations can feel so important. Mark nodded. It's not strange. It's human. We all need connection. Sometimes it shows up when we least expect it. They continued walking, sharing stories about childhood memories and dreams they'd almost forgotten. With each word, Lily felt the subtle weight of her own realization growing. It wasn't about Mark replacing David. It wasn't about betrayal. It was about awakening to herself, to her feelings, to her need for acknowledgement and understanding. By the time they returned home, Lily felt a calm clarity. Mark smiled at her at the doorstep. Thank you for today. For everything. She smiled back, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known she was missing. Thank you, Mark, for being honest, for listening. He waved and left, and Lily closed the door, leaning against it. The house felt different now, not in a physical sense, but in an emotional one. She understood that life could be complicated, that feelings could emerge quietly and profoundly, and that acknowledging them didn't have to diminish the love she had for David. That evening, David came home, tired but smiling. Lily met him at the door, wrapping her arms around him. The warmth was real, grounding. Yet inside, she carried the soft imprint of Mark's presence, a reminder of her own heart's depth. As they settled into dinner, Lily realized something important. Love wasn't about ignoring the stirrings of your heart. It was about recognizing them, understanding them, and letting them shape you without letting them unravel the life you had built. Later, as she lay in bed, Lily reflected on the last week. A simple visit, a cup of coffee, a walk in the park, these small moments had unlocked something inside her. She had learned about herself, about her need for connection, about the quiet power of being truly seen. She glanced at David, sleeping peacefully beside her, and smiled. Life was complex, but it was also beautiful. And sometimes, the people who touched your heart in unexpected ways weren't there to change your life. They were there to remind you to pay attention to it. For the first time in a long while, Lily felt a quiet contentment. She didn't have all the answers, but she understood one crucial truth. Some realizations didn't come with fanfare. They arrived softly, like a whisper, leaving an enduring mark on the heart. And as the night settled in, Lily finally closed her eyes, feeling whole, aware, and quietly grateful for the gentle awakening she hadn't known she needed. The memory of Mark's visit remained, a simple, unassuming presence that had changed her in ways she would carry with her forever.